Hello again, Colonial Man here. We've been speaking about the meaning of the Declaration of Independence. Episode 1 gave you an overview of the portion I consider to be my favorite part of the Declaration of Independence. The next episode, episode 2, covered the first line, talking about how our rights are given to us by God. The next line talked about how we are to have a government which is to secure our rights. That's the purpose of government. The next episode talked about how if the government fails to do its job, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and then institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them, the people, it will be most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Now what follows next is this: prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. Now let's break this down into two general parts. Prudence, another word for wisdom. What does wisdom teach us? What does prudence show us? Prudence indeed will dictate, will for sure tell us this: that governments long established, that is, governments which have stood the test of time, they've been around for a long time, and probably there's a reason for that, should not be changed for light and transient causes. In other words, don't go about changing your government for trendy or fashionable reasons. Is this a time-imminent decision, and will it stand the test of time? Or is it something that people won't be concerned about a year from now or a decade from now? It will no longer matter. Now, we have a foundational form of government based on a constitution. If you don't know this, the Constitution is very difficult to change. Amending the Constitution is a huge undertaking. Now, the reason that they made it that way was so that people wouldn't change it for light and transient causes. It would have to be important enough to the people to change it, to make the effort to do so through the difficulty of changing it. Make it difficult for a reason. If the people really want the change, they'll do it. But if it's a light and transient cause, not a heartfelt conviction by most of the American people, it won't happen. So governments should not be changed for light and transient causes. If they've stood the test of time, there must be a reason. Now let's look at the second part. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they're accustomed. This is a commentary on human beings. It's basically saying human beings will choose to suffer under a bad government. Why? Perhaps they're lazy. Perhaps they don't understand these grand issues, and so they leave it to others. Perhaps because they don't believe that their voice counts in government. They've given up. But this is a commentary on the human condition. Jefferson is saying this: the condition of humanity is they will choose to suffer under a bad government. For how long? While evils are sufferable. As long as they can put up with it, as long as they can stand it, they'll choose to be lazy or inactive, or choose to let others make the decisions for them, as long as they can stand it. So, we shouldn't try to change government for willy-nilly reasons, And anyway, humans won't try to change it as long as they can tolerate it. But when a long train of suffering and usurpations, that's what's coming up in the next episode. We're going to talk about the but. When is it that you should get off your keister, your duff, whatever you care to call this thing? When is it you should get up and do something about this? So, as always, I will end this YouTube presentation by advertising my book, United States History, Roots Through the Constitution, Our Disappearing Legacy by James William Brigham. Now, I wrote this primarily, you're wondering, well, how do you know so much about history? Well, look at me, I'm old. I've lived through it, for one thing. But I've taught on this subject for many, many years. And this happens to be my favorite time of American history. So, I am somewhat of an expert, and true, the book was originally written for people in their teens. However, I have had several adults, many adults, read this book. And they have all said pretty much the same thing. One man said, "This should be required reading in every American school." That was a compliment. But probably not going to happen. Another man said, "I cannot believe how much I learned." Still another woman said, "I remember covering this in school, but I didn't really understand it. Your work made it so understandable." All of these are nice compliments, but it's going to be up to you to buy this book for merely $12, and you can read it, your children can read it, but all will benefit from reading it, to reignite interest in this key time of our American history that is so poorly taught in most schools today. So again, it's called United States History, Roots Through Constitution, Our Disappearing Legacy by James William Brigham. You can contact me at constitutiontoday@gmail.com, and for the low, low price of $12, I will get a copy of this book. And if you'd prefer to have me sign it, Colonial Man, I'd be happy to do so. Thank you.